Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina. I'm the host here, and today's guest comes from Istanbul, Turkey. Yiğitcan, did I say it right? Yiğitcan,
Yes,
welcome to Fiberchats.
thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So I actually first saw this sweater that you're wearing. It was test knitted by another guest of Fiberchats, Francesco from Dark Omen Yarns. And I was like, oh, like, what is that? Right. Tell me a little bit, when did you start knitting? How did you get into knitting?
I learned how to knit when I was a child. My mom taught me, and I think I was around 10 years.
Mhm.
And then I stopped knitting for a long time, then start to knit again in high school and start to knit my own uh, sweaters, scarves, and beanies. But I wasn't really following a pattern. I wasn't also really designing anything. So I was just, doing for fun. Yeah.
Well, you were designing, you just didn't realize you were designing, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Do you remember like when your mom was teaching you how to knit? Like what was the attraction for you? What was she knitting?
I don't know. I mean, she was always knitting and I was always watching her. And it feels so peaceful at that time, I guess. Yeah, when my other friends are playing in the streets, I was at home knitting. So, and I was really enjoying
Right.
it.
So when you got back to knitting, like in your teens, did you wear what you were making?
Yes, I was wearing my uh, my knittings.
So what was the reaction of your friends when they saw you wearing your creations?
Yeah, they really like that idea of knitting knitting their own garments. So they always, I also did a couple gifts for my friends too. So, and I also try to teach them, but some of them are okay with knitting, but some of them are not. So, yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about it because in Turkey, it's a huge culture of knitting. Like I see on
Yeah.
Instagram, like there's so many knitters in Turkey and they're doing some like sensational stuff like that you don't even find anyplace else. Is there a culture for men to knit or was that frowned upon?
No, not really. Usually, women's are knitting. Uh, yeah, I don't see any man actually knit in Turkey. I mean, there are probably,
Right.
but I don't know who they are yet.
Yeah. Did you have any like problems within your family or friends, like giving you a hard time about you being a knitter?
Not right now, but when I was a little bit a teenager, my father wasn't really happy about it.
Yeah.
But right now, he's okay because he see that this can be a career path. At that time, he just did think that it's just a hobby and I cannot earn anything from that. So, but now he's okay and he's supportive.
Yeah. So when you at some point you decided that you want to study it more, right? Like you went to college to study textiles.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I studied also fine arts in high school, and at that time I was very interested of textiles. I was drawing lots of fabrics and laces, and and also I was knitting a lot at that time too. So I thought it would be a great fit for me. So I decided to study textile design. And when I started to study, I realized that I am always doing my projects with knitting. So I mostly, focused on knitting at that time.
Right. Do you find now that you became a designer, do you find that knowledge that you got from the textiles helpful in you grading or creating your patterns?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the what they taught us is a bit more different than what I'm doing right now. But yeah, it's definitely opened some things in me, like different perspective. It gives me a different perspective, and also I learn a little bit more about colors and how to visualize a look, or yeah, so it really helps actually. Yeah.
Well, talking about how you visualize the look, I saw on Instagram where you sketch some idea of like, I don't know, it was like something animal print kind of look-alike, and then you figure out how to turn it into knitting. Like, how is your process going? Like, how does it go from idea to the finished project?
So I usually start with sketching, with rough sketches, and I try to find the right stitch for that. Sometimes the stitch is in my mind, but sometimes it comes later. And then when I, decide to what stitch I will use according to my also sketches, I'm swatching, and then if I'm happy with the result, I start another sketch. um, and this sketch is more about the shape of the item, shape of the garment, shape of the accessory. So yeah, then I start to knitting, and at the same time I'm writing the pattern.
Well, how many patterns are in your head at any given moment? Are we talking like one at the time, or there is like a whole container
Yeah,
of them?
I usually do them one at a time. Yeah. Well, I started last last patterns. I started to do like two at a time, but usually I prefer to work one project at a time.
You mentioned to me that you like to use Turkish names for your patterns. Do you feel like Turkey or like Istanbul or the history of your country influences your designs?
Yes, definitely. I mean, my first designs maybe not, but lately I was more looking. Lately, I'm looking more to Turkish culture, Turkish mythology, and other traditional Turkish motifs from the kilims and Turkish architecture in Istanbul. So they really influence me right now. But at first, I wasn't really, get inspiration from them.
Well, if somebody were to describe you as a designer, what do you think they would say? Like what are you trying to show the world as a designer?
Uh, I think I would say self-expression. Yeah.
I mean, do you have like a diary of ideas? Like, do you go around and you see something and you're like, oh, that would make a great part of my show?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I have lots of ideas, and I always keeping them in some place, and I try to visit them back, but usually they also always waiting in the mm, they're always waiting, and I'm starting a new things, and yeah, I usually cannot take that idea back.
Yeah. When you talk about like becoming a designer, how did that go for you? Like, how did you learn how to write patterns and things like that?
Um, I was I actually didn't know about knitting patterns for a long time because in Turkey there is not that. I mean, people are knitting, of course, lots of people, but majority of people are usually knit by themselves.
Right.
They are not really following a pattern, and my family was also like that. My mother, my aunt, they're also just knitting, designing, actually. Um, so I wasn't really aware of knitting patterns. Then I did my internship in Berlin. It was about knitting, actually. They were knitting, they were producing hand knitted garments and selling them. And in my first, I firstly saw knitting patterns at that time.
Hmm.
And later than on, uh, I find out Ravelry, and I saw lots of patterns there. And then I decided to, okay, I can, give it a try. And, I just look at some patterns and see the structures of them. And I think it was in lockdown when we are at home all the time, I just started to write my patterns for my designs. And it went very well. And then I started to uh, submit my ideas. I saw lots of submissions for designers, and I was actually lucky at first. Then you know, my designs get published, and it also helps me to understand different uh, pattern layouts
Right.
because each magazine has different
Style.
different styles, and that also helps me to understand to write like a perfect pattern.
Right. There is this fine line of being a designer and marketing your patterns, right? It's one thing to come up with a brilliant idea and to swatch it and find the perfect yarn for it and write a good pattern, even or grade it and whatever. And then to actually sell it to the world, to advertise it and make it popular, it's like the flip side that a lot of people don't like doing and don't know how to do. How did you learn to market yourself?
Um, well, I think I'm still learning a little bit because at first times I was just posting Instagram and waiting for the reaction, but it just didn't get that much attention. Nowadays, I'm started to post more like every day. I'm trying to post, make reels, and now I feel like it's getting somewhere right now. It's marketing wise.
Well, what do you think attracts people to you specifically?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe modeling myself to my designs. Yeah,
I think
I
it's actually very important because a lot of people shy away from that. They want to be behind the scenes. And I think, like, I truly believe that people don't buy designs a lot of time because of the design necessarily, but because they like you as a person and they want to invest in you more so than just the uniqueness of design, you know?
yeah, I think people, when people see the designer, also the other the process of designing and the some little things from their lives, I think it makes people connect better.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, talking about those connections, how did your life change with like becoming a designer, announcing to the world that you're a designer and creating all these connections on Instagram? versus just sitting home and knitting?
Um, it changed a lot actually because I feel that feel like I'm belonging somewhere, a community. It really makes me happy to, when I see that reactions of my designs and nice connections, nice talk, it's really changed my mood and make me happy.
Yeah. You told me that you love collecting the maps of subways from different cities. Is
Yeah.
going one of your passions?
Yeah, I don't know why, but yeah, I love metro maps. I just love looking at them. Yeah, I used to also love drawing maps a lot. I used to create my own world. Like I just made up with different countries, and I also made up some races for that country. So yeah,
Are you a dreamer?
a little bit. Yeah, I think I am.
So where do you like what are you dreaming about? Like where do you see yourself going, let's say 5 years from now?
5 years. Well, I don't know. It's a bit difficult questions, but uh, I really wanna move from Turkey. Yeah, it's on my mind very like for the last couple years. I really I'm dreaming myself in a different country and working my designs. Yeah, and connect with more people in the knitting community.
So if like you could close your eyes and be in a different country, is there like one that you're particularly dreaming about?
Well, the first country came into my mind is Iceland because I really love that atmosphere, and I am a fan of winter. Uh,
Yeah, it's a very different climate from Turkey.
yes, Turkey is a bit hot, and yeah, mostly northern countries, I guess. Yeah.
Well, since you're living in Turkey and it's warm climate, as you mentioned, is there difficulty of obtaining woolly yarns in Turkey? Is like, do you have an issue of getting yarn?
Um, well, from outside, it's not an issue. But in Turkey, in the market, there is usually cheap acrylic yarns. Yeah, so it's a bit difficult actually. Yes, I'm also working with earth yarns, so uh, I can provide myself with nice quality yarn too. I think it's the only place. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite um, kind of yarn, like base?
Well, I think I just love just simple merino. Yeah.
Let's talk about that shawl behind you. So I saw you posting teasers of airbender and like showing different techniques. Tell me a little bit the story behind that shawl. How did it come to you and like what was your vision for it?
Well, first I actually designed a sweater like called waterbender, and then it just clicked me that why I'm not designing whole elements. And when I was thinking which one is should start, then I started to think about airbender, and actually I my design process was a little bit didn't go as I expected at first place because my first ideas were not really working. I didn't really like that first ideas. Then I just started spontaneously. Actually, this design is a bit spontaneous design. Normally, I just plan everything and every stitch, but this one is a bit spontaneous. I just told myself that I'm gonna design. I'm just gonna knit, and it will go somewhere. And since it's also about air, I feel like that it should be like that. It's also I feel like it mm, connect with that idea of air with spontaneous design. And I think it's worked out very well. I really enjoyed knitting that one.
It's really beautiful, and I feel like every element of it is really beautiful stitch. Was it difficult to pick the stitches to like the next portion of the shawl when you were getting there?
When I first started it, I had some ideas, but they were not really concrete enough. And it wasn't really hard because I just feel that, okay, now I'm transitioning to the knobs, for example, and I just think about it and how can I translate that stitch to that stitch. And it just come naturally. Yeah.
Right, right. Um, the noops that you're using, it's actually not naps, it's noops. It's
No.
rhymes with soup. So it's an Estonian technique, right?
Yeah.
Um, do you like combining techniques from different parts of the world?
Yes. I mean, I also try to work with Latvian braids. Yeah, I'm also trying to do some Turkish motifs with combining that technique. So, yeah.
Did you know about the noobs that actually they used to sell shawls? Estonian women used to sell shawls in the market by weight. And so adding noobs was adding a lot of weight to the shawl. And so that's how the technique became so popular because it's
Okay.
like their way to make the shawl heavier.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Actually like them a lot because they look like little pearls, you know, they add this like little sophistication to the shawl. But you know what, the my favorite part of that shawl are those holes that you created, and I was watching your reel where you were showing how to make those holes.
Mhm.
I think it's actually like really great idea that you're sharing some parts of that, um how you making that shawl as a marketing tool to sell the shawl, because people see it and they're like, oh, I just want to learn how to make those holes. And so they'll buy the pattern just for that, right?
Yeah, I'm also planning to, yeah, do a little bit more tutorial videos. So I think it helps people to understand the design better.
Well, you mentioned that in Turkey, and it's not only in Turkey. Like I remember talking to Hohi Locatelli, and she said the same thing, that like she's not that famous in Argentina because in Argentina everybody just knows how to knit and they don't buy patterns. Are you well known in Turkey? Do you feel like people know you in Turkey?
Well, there are some people, yeah, there are some Turkish people following me right now, yeah, but not much, yeah, because majority is not following knitting patterns. So, yeah.
Do you translate your patterns into Turkish or they're just in English?
They are mostly in English. I think I translate one or two patterns, but I feel like there is not interest, so I'm not translating it them anymore.
Well, who do you imagine as your target audience?
I don't know, everyone. I mean, I'm not, thinking about, genders or, age group. Yeah, I think everyone can. I also try to design, for, every body type. And so, yeah, I would be happy to see on my designs on anyone, actually.
Are you surprised when you see like other people's choices for colors or like how they interpret your designs when you see it on other people? What does it feel like?
Yes, it feels very, it feels nice because I can see the other color possibilities. Uh, it's sometimes really, nice colorways. They choose the colors that I never thought of. So, and it also gave the design another perspective. And yeah, the colors just make the design, different colors make the design basically different. It feels like different design when in different colors.
Right.
Yeah. Um,
When you create your designs, are you ever concerned with complexity of the design? Because the simpler the design, the more people feel like they can make it. And when I'm looking at your patterns, and I'm sure they're all doable, but they feel complicated. Like, are you concerned with the difficulty of the pattern and that people gonna be scared?
um, mm, now a little bit, but when I first did start to design, I wasn't really think about that. Uh, I just still actually I am doing my anything comes into my mind. I'm doing that, but now I'm starting to consider a little bit more. I want to, of course, continue my more difficult designs, but I also want to add a little bit more beginner friendly, more easy patterns too.
Well, since you treat it as a business now, this is your main business, right? Does that add pressure to your knitting? Because before, like when you just knit for pleasure, you can knit as much or as little as you want. You can make whatever comes to your mind. Now you have to be on certain production schedule, I imagine, and you have to publish patterns certain times a year. Does that add pressure to you? Does that stress you out?
Not much. Yeah, I'm not get so stressful about it. If I'm not, I mean, of course, if I have the deadline, if I'm designing for a magazine or for someone, it's a bit stressful. But if I'm just doing my independent patterns, I'm just doing in my time, so I don't get stressed a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned to you at the beginning of our interview that the first time I saw your design was on Francesco from Dark Omen Yarns. Is it hard for you to find testers for your garments?
Yeah, some designs, yes, especially for garments and for larger sizes. It's a bit difficult for me to find testers, but usually I can manage to, you know, do good amount of testers. Yeah.
So like how did you learn about grading the garments? Was that part of your college education or did you stumble and like try and error kind of thing?
I kind of tried it. Also, my internship also, I think I learned a little bit grading there too. But then I was just, follow my own instincts. And I also look other patterns, how they did it. Uh, and yeah, also I feel like each design has different way of grading. Uh, And with each design, because they have different constructions, each time I design a garment, I try to think a different way of grading. So it's like I'm learning like that too at like slowly. I didn't really learn some place from someone.
Like
Uh,
it's an
yeah,
everyday kind of learning curve.
yeah.
Well, is there something you're working on now that you can share with us? Like what's on your needles now?
Oh yeah. Um, I am doing this shawl right now, like
Uh,
a brioche shawl.
it's very
Yeah,
3D, right? Like it has this 3D effect to it.
yeah, it's a bit, it's like a skewed squares, like a, not squares. Yeah.
I like it a lot, actually. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I'm doing this one right now, and I'm also planning to start sock design with Turkish constructions. Yeah, because Turkey is mostly known that traditional, if we look at traditional Turkish things, it's mostly socks. So I want to also uh, make life, give life to that part of me.
Right. Well, I saw that you have a book on Turkish mythology. Do you think something is gonna come out of that?
Yes, definitely. I'm planning to uh, design some things about Turkish mythology because I did one design before called Ulkain. It was for earth yarn, so it was also about it was the design that I get into Turkish mythology a little bit more, and I felt I need to learn a little bit more so I can, get into it a bit more and design more stuff from Turkish mythology.
Right. You told me that you like to dance. Is that something, are you a perfectionist when it comes to your hobbies? Like, do you study dance or do you just go and do the airbending kind of thing?
No, I'm just, I didn't learn anywhere. Yeah, I just enjoy dancing. Sometimes at home alone, sometimes outside with friends. Yeah.
Well, I really liked the photography from the waterbender. So you had that whole like sun shining on your face and it was like the water behind you. It was just like really beautiful. How do you go about the photography? Like, do you have professional photographers who do it, or is that you as well, another talent of yours?
Sometimes my friends, I ask for help. And if I'm just alone at home, I'm just shooting myself, you know. But if I'm modeling, I need to ask from friends. And sometimes, if I'm doing designs in earth yarns, they also handle the photo shoots. So, yeah.
Do you have a favorite pattern of yours? Like if the archaeologist would find one of your designs 200 years from now, which one would you want them to find?
I think Airbender. It's quite new, but yeah, I think that one is, yeah, my favorite one so far.
Do you see yourself creating a collection at some point, like a fashion show?
Yeah, why not? I would, yeah, love that
I
one
think
day.
I think you should do that, and you should do that with the Turkish mythology book. Like that would be most brilliant collection.
Yes, that's a nice idea. Yeah.
Well, I hope I'm gonna have a chance to see it when it's all put together. And I hope we're gonna run into each other at one of the festivals, or maybe like when you move to Iceland,
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
Thank you so much for being my guest today. It was really lovely to get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.